everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Saturday Race of the Day, which comes out in South Ozone Park, New York at Aqueduct. Race 7 is the Grade 3 Jockey Club Oaks, this one going the mile and 3/8 distance for the 3-year-old fillies. And Mike, this was a race that used to be run a little bit earlier on the calendar. They moved it all the way back to mid-November, which I questioned because this was a race that seemed like it was built to attract some European shippers, and Europeans are not going to ship over to run a turf race after the Breeders' Cup in mid-November. And we don't have any European shippers in this race. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that it actually did draw a pretty nice field that includes two of the best 3-year-old filly turf horses in the country in Fionn and Laurelin.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little surprised that it drew the field that it did as well. I mean, we're right at the very end of turf racing in New York, so this is odd placement for a race like this, but they got a couple of really nice fillies to show up.
Yeah, I made Laurelin the slight morning line favorite. She suffered her first career defeat last time in the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. She and Fionn will be stretching out to the longest distance of their careers, and distance is going to be the major question for a lot of the fillies in this race. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Jockey Club Oaks. And Mike, with the race run around 3 turns, they're probably going to try to back down the pace a little bit early. I'm not sure how much it really matters who's going to wind up on the lead here. And I think the connections of the number 6 Don't Jinx It will be happy to take up the role of pace setter because she was successful using that style too back, and they rated her last time, or were forced to rate last time. She's probably more comfortable going to the lead, and we'll see if she's good enough.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like she's probably not, but yeah, I'm sort of with you in that I'm not really sure the pace is going to really come into play here. I mean, obviously it's going to affect Fionn more than it's going to affect Laurelin, because Fionn just doesn't really have any speed, and she's going to have to pass a bunch of horses in the stretch. I mean, there are a bunch of horses in here that she's just better than, so it may not matter, but the pace is going to affect her more than it is her main rival.
Yeah, Fionn is the number 4, unsurprisingly shown last on the pace projector, also taking blinkers off in this race, so we'll see if that removes any more early speed that she did have, and she unsurprisingly does have that late pace flag indicating that she possesses the highest Timeform US late pace rating of anybody in this field. If you want to find a little bit more about these horses in Timeform US, you can access those PPs for free, with this being the DRF Saturday Race of the Day. You can also get classic formulator PPs for free on DRF.com. Just head on over to that Race of the Day page. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Scythian, a New York bred stepping up against Open Company. But Mike, she's actually an Open Company graded stakes winner when she took down the Miss Griot during her 2-year-old season before disappointing in the Breeders' Cup. She's only had 2 starts since making a belated begin to her 3-year-old campaign in August of this year, a dirt race where she lost but ran well, and then this turf race last time at the second level New York bred allowance condition. We'll take a look at the stretch run. Now, she loses this race as the 2-5 favorite, so that part is disappointing. But when you take stock of the trip that she had, she probably should have won this race. You can see right here in mid-stretch, she's trying to squeeze through inside of that gray horse, goes for that spot at the gap. It closes up on her. Junior Alvarado is forced to steady. I think that cost her the race. And I do like this part of the replay where she finds that gap once again and is kind of shooting through at the very end. And Mike, I don't know if you watched the gallop out of this race. She runs about 5 lengths clear of this field after the wire. So she's better than that. And I do think based on pedigree, this stretch out to a mile and 3/8 is somewhat intriguing.
I feel the same way about her. I mean, obviously she was probably going to win last time. Junior just got trapped inside there. But that's kind of a running style that she's put on display in all of her turf races, where she can sort of be up close. So that pace projector we looked at, it's not really going to affect her. It feels like from the rail here, she's going to fall into another really good trip here. We'll just see if she gets a clean run this time. She's got an awful lot to prove. I mean, let's be honest about that. I know she's a grade 2 winner as a 2-year-old, but when you take that race apart, you know, it's hard to have a ton of confidence there. The way that race ultimately played out was, of course, bolting on the lead and wiping out a bunch of horses. So who knows how good she is, David? I still think this is a pretty interesting spot for her.
Yeah, she's a 3/4 sister to a horse named Dancing Dean, who was a winner going a mile and 3/8 on the turf. And when you watch Scythian run, she's got that big, long stride on her where she really extends herself. She gives you the idea that more distance should work for him. We'll see if that trip that you mentioned does work out riding the rail. The number 2 Hereforagoodtime. She's been chasing home Fionn a couple times this year in the Regret and the Dueling Grounds Oaks last time. I didn't think she ran as well as that foe on either of those occasions, Mike. I suppose this distance should work for her. She's sort of a steady grinding type. I just don't know what's going to be so different that she's going to turn the tables on that rival or be as good as Laurelin.
Yeah, exactly. It just, it's one of those situations where she's a 3-year-old filly with, some decent form, and she's been competitive in some stakes races, but you're just waiting for a breakthrough with this filly where she was going to really move forward and just run a better race. And it just hasn't happened yet. I guess if you wanted to say she's going to get a better trip than Fionn, and so maybe that comes into play here, I guess that's probably true. But based on their 2 meetings so far, Fionn's a better horse than she is.
The number 3 National Archive has a similar profile to Scythian. She's not a past graded stakes winner, but she is also a New York bred, and she does seem like a horse who is going to appreciate going the longer distances. She did win going this 11 furlong distance last time out. That was against first level open allowance condition. Mike, it was not the most visually impressive score because while she did show some grit to battle back in the late stages, there were 4 horses that were basically stacked across each of the wire together on that day. So I don't think that performance is going to make her a competitor here, but she is another one that could attain some good forward position.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, listen, I appreciate that she won at this distance last time. And I also appreciate that she's at least a little versatile. Did it on the lead last time. The win 3 starts back there came from way back into a fast pace. So she can do it, either way, I guess. I just didn't think she was good enough.
The number 4, Fionn, is one of the top 3-year-old filly turf horses in the country. I mean, she's won a slew of graded stakes races, became a Grade 1 winner in the Belmont Oaks this summer, coming off a performance that was slightly disappointing last time, Mike, because she was bet down to favoritism on the heels of a big early bet that day in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup and held favoritism to the late stages over Laurelin, but she just never really got involved in that race. She was very sluggish early, taken towards the back of the pack. That is her style. She likes to come from towards the back, but she was just left with so much to do by the time they got to the top of the stretch. And she was really picking it up in the final 8th of a mile, but she just got rolling way too late in that race.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, especially when you just go back and watch that race in full. I mean, you really didn't want to be coming from last in that race. It was just a race that was dominated closer to the pace. And she actually probably ran as well in that race as she had in her prior 2 starts, which were both graded stakes victories. But, as we've we're already alluding to in the Open, David, I mean, trips are more important to her than they are to anybody else in this race. We'll see what Pratt can work out.
Yeah, if they really back down this pace, she could find herself in an unenviable position at the back of the pack once again. We'll see how that works out for her. The number 5, Evershed, she finished second to Laurelin in the Grade 2 Saratoga Oaks this summer at Saratoga. That was by far the best performance of her brief career up until that point. And Mike, it looked like the class relief was supposed to really work for her when she came back for her next start at Colonial. No pace in that race. They put her on the front end. She wasn't really able to see it out. She didn't possess a kick through the stretch to hold off the closer. So a somewhat disappointing loss as the favorite, but now they've given her a couple months off to regroup, and she is another one that feels like the added distance is supposed to really work for her.
I think it is too. And she's also just really lightly raced. I mean, she went into that Saratoga Oaks, and listen, she was only second best to Laurelin that day, but she ran fine in there. And her prior 2 wins just sort of pointed her out as a horse who was, moving in the right direction. She's got talent. I feel like she'll get this far. She was disappointing last time. I don't think there's any 2 ways about that. It was run over a soft turf course, and so maybe that offers some kind of excuse for her. We'll see, man. I feel like she still has a chance to be really good, but she's got ground to make up on Laurelin.
The number 6, Don't Jinx It. Like we said earlier, potential pace setter in this race. She did win in gate to wire fashion 2 back at Saratoga when she got to go very slowly up front and then turned it into a sprint for the wire to hold on at 39-1 that day. And Mike, Miguel Clement could have a chance to control this race towards the front end because we already mentioned National Archive, another horse that he's got in this race with some tactical speed. So we'll see if there is some team tactic coming on here to slow the pace down a little bit. Don't Jinx It. The problem for her with me, Mike, is the last race where I thought she got a very good trip at Delaware and just was no match for the winner.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't even think maybe she does make an easy early lead in here. And we've seen, listen, we've seen, David, you and I follow turf racing in New York year round. We've seen horses get loose on the lead and they do not get challenged and they're still around at the end. So I guess that's possible. I just don't see her being good enough to beat this field, even if she does get loose.
The number 7, Laurelin, did nothing wrong through the beginning of her career. She went 5 for 5 right on through the victory in that Grade 2 Saratoga Oaks, where, as Mike said, she beat Evershed on the square, was just superior to that field on that day. They came back to try the Grade 1 last time, the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup, and Mike, she lost her undefeated record, but I still think she ran really well. She was a little wider than the winner every step of the way. Kendrick Carmouche, like he tends to ride her, didn't really worry about getting cover. He stayed 3 wide around that second turn, and she just couldn't quite force forged past a very sharp, lush lips on that day, but she was a solid second. We'll take a look at the replay as Laurelin is chasing home that rival through the stretch. Didn't highlight Fionn here. She's way at the back and is going to come into the screen across the wire in the very late stages, but Laurelin puts in her typical good effort. And Mike, I'm not really worried about the added distance for her, especially when you look at her pedigree based on breeding. She's supposed to want every bit of this 3-turn marathon.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, listen, you and I have pretty much done all of her races this year, David. I think one of the things that we kept pointing out, even when she was winning races going a mile, was that, man, this is a filly's probably going to be good when she gets more ground to work with, and she's going to get more ground to work with again here. Your points are all well taken too about her race last time. She ran fine in there. There was nothing wrong with that performance, even though, you know, she lost her losing streak. She just happened to get out tripped by a really sharp winner of that race.
And Kendrick Carmouche probably doesn't need tips from me on how to ride turf races because he's won his fair share. Yeah. But I would love to see him get some cover with this horse, because going wide around 3 turns can be a really tough trip, even if you're the best horse on paper. The number 8, Unmerited Favor, a horse who is in very good form right now for trainer Ken McPeak. She's won 2 in a row. Arguably should have been taken down from the victory 2 back at Kentucky Downs, but that's neither here nor there. She was impressive winning her last start at Keeneland. We'll take a look at the replay of that race where she got some pace to close into, but she really seemed to appreciate stretching out to the mile and 3/16 distance as she's able to run down this field, winning going away at the end. I guess, Mike, she just has to do it against a way tougher field as she steps up against Graded Stakes Company here.
Yeah, they're going to step her up here. This is clearly the best race that she's ever run. You know, what that means in the context of this race, I don't know. But this is a pretty convincing victory here. She always traveled in this race. She won very easily at the end. This was a race, David, where I thought it was, you know, kind of hard to get to the long shots. But I'll admit, I took an extra look at this horse and then couldn't quite get there.
Let's go to our picks for this Saturday race of the day, the Jockey Club Oaks. And as we talk about our picks, make sure you hit that like button below this video if you like the content that we're putting out on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel. And also drop us a comment below to let us know who you like in this race. Mike and I, we're both going for the morning line favorite, Laurelin. Mike, you know, I've been a big fan of this horse, and I've had confidence that added distance would work for her, as you alluded to earlier. We'll see what kind of trip she works out. It hasn't mattered too much in the past. I just think she's way the horse to beat.
I do too. And between the 2 favorites, I felt the same way about her last time, but I just much prefer her to Fionn, and I think Fionn's a really nice horse. But I'm with you here on Laurelin in this race. I wanted to take one more shot with Evershed, and I do think she has a chance to still be really good, but I just think it's going to be hard for her to beat Laurelin in this spot.
And I'll use a little Scythian underneath for the reasons that we talked about earlier. Probably has a good trip coming to her, and I do think that she's better than her last couple of results would indicate. 7-1-4-5 for me and 7-5-4-1 for Mike. And the DRF Saturday race of the day, the Grade 3 Jockey Club Oaks at Aqueduct. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.